Hey everybody. Oops, I just dropped a bunch of stuff. Hi. Hello, I'm here. I'm just getting situated back in the normal configuration. Hey, I'm back. It is Sunday, the day of the sun. It is the hour of the sun at 3 o'clock, even though today is daylight savings or ends daylight savings. Um, and I feel like I'm definitely ready for a nap. So anybody else feeling that way? It's very, yeah, disorienting to have your whole day just whatever. Anyway, um, last week when I said that when Mars went um, station retrograde, I think that's when my partner got sick, and then I got sick. So this whole past week I've been sick, um, just with a cold. The whole family got a little cold, but just kind of, I don't know. I was in weird twilight zone, like I talked about, being in between eclipses kind of puts you in this weird nebulous period, and of course being sick on top of that just adds a whole nother level of disorientation and like weird. So here I am in my college sweatshirt just looking like I'm getting over being sick. But anyway, I didn't want to skip the forecast even if I lose my voice, because it's big, right? This is the biggest week I think of the year, as far as most people and most astrologers talking about the big event, which is the lunar eclipse happening on Tuesday, which is also election day. Now, we did have one 2 weeks ago in Scorpio. Now this one's going to be in Taurus. The one 2 weeks ago was a solar eclipse. So the energy of that solar eclipse was a little bit more positive. There was a lot more letting go of things. So people, even though it was a new moon, felt like they had to, there was some weird things that people were like getting rid of, and the crap they were dumping from their life that they needed to shift. But a lot of a similar energy that happens with the lunar and the solar eclipses. Hey, Jonathan. So a lot of similar energy stays present, even if it's a solar versus a lunar. We had the South Node eclipse happening with Scorpio. Now we're having the North Node, North Node in Taurus, and this eclipse is going to be much, much bigger, more volatile. I mean, the chart for this eclipse is like huge, and a lot of astrologers have been like looking at it. I mean, a lot of people talking about this upcoming week is going to be the most important week of the year astrologically. Of course, it could also be very big politically, economically, whatever, for the United States. So very interesting to see what's going to happen, because the eclipse happens on election day this year. And we really are kind of in the final stages of having eclipses in election season. I mean, we've had them for the past like 2 years or so. Um, and yeah, we've noticed like eclipses keep happening during election season. A lot of big events that have happened politically have fallen upon eclipses in the past few years. So this is kind of the biggest, there's like a final hurrah energy to this eclipse, because we are moving from eclipses being in Scorpio and Taurus into Aries and Libra next year. There's going to be one final Scorpio eclipse happening in May, but after that, we're going to be, I mean, even before that, there's going to be a shift into the next two signs. So this can be, yeah, even though it's a North Node eclipse, which is less about like releasing and giving up things, and much more about like being attracted to or pulled or magnetized towards something different, almost like an unconscious or a being drawn towards something where you can't even control it. That's very much a North Node type energy. It's also considered to be increasing energy by traditional astrologers and ancient astrologers. So, a lot of people talk about the North Node, the nodes, as being kind of like spiritual or evolutionary in some subsets of astrology. Traditionally and ancient astrology, the nodes and eclipses were supposed to be very negative. They were going to be very like scary for a lot of people, big events that were going to happen. And I know personally a lot of people have experienced losses during these eclipses, and I have experienced losses of friends, family members, and I know that a lot of people have experienced that in these eclipses. So we talk about Scorpio, Scorpio's association with life and death. It's really, I talked last week about Scorpio being associated with like the life cycle, and that includes birth and death. And Taurus really is about that emotional, or no, we talk about Taurus as being like the physical aspect of survival, and Scorpio being the emotional or psychological aspect of survival. And so we are shifting towards the actual physical, tangible things that make the world go round with this eclipse, which is a Taurus eclipse. Um, Now, the big deal about this is everyone's like, "Oh, what is it?" So, why is this such a big deal for this Taurus eclipse? And it's because that what is has been in Taurus for the past few years? What planet is there? What's been kicking up all of this chaos in Taurus for the past few years? Disrupting the food supply, disrupting climate change. A lot of stuff like that is being associated with this planet in the sign of Taurus, and that would be the planet Uranus. And Uranus, yeah. So Jonathan knows, he knows. So right, Uranus is this great disruptor planet. This great, a lot of people call it like the Great Awakener, but along with that awakening comes an incredible amount of upheaval. The status quo has to go away. It has to be replaced with something different. It has to be challenged in some way. And that's what Uranus has been doing. And it's been doing it in the sign of Taurus. So where is Uranus currently in the sky right now? It's right around 16 degrees. I think it's 16, it's 55 minutes of Taurus. And guess where the eclipse is happening? Um, 16 degrees and one minute. So that's a pretty close um that's a pretty close conjunction. I mean, with the moon and Uranus, you really can't get much closer unless it's exactly to the minute. Um, so that's an incredibly tight sort of being infused with that Uranian type energy. This moon, which is also a lunar eclipse, is really going to feel that Uranus power. It's also a full moon, right? So that means the sun is going to be in the opposite sign of Scorpio, and along with the sun, there's two little planets, along with all the nodes that are, of course, in those two signs too. We have Mercury and Venus traveling very closely to the sun right now. So that's like a whole personal aspect. Like we're really going to feel this emotionally because of that scorpionic psychological connection between the sun, the Mercury, and Venus all being in Scorpio right now. And all of those planets are going to be completely in opposition to the moon in and Uranus in Taurus. So that's a kind of a big, and this didn't happen with that solar eclipse we had with Scorpio. Scorpio, it was very early in Scorpio. It was not within, depending on what type of astrology you follow, with an orb of an opposition to Uranus. Um, so you can see that there may have been some Uranian effects, but not as like intensely as it's going to be for this eclipse. Um, so I don't know. Stop. Of course, I get an update popping up right away. What did Jonathan say? I wonder what planetary schedules. Oh yeah. So people, you have to look at your own chart, right? You have to see what's happening for you specifically in relationship to these eclipses, because not only are all these things happening in the sky right now, but you have to look and see how it factors into your own life. The whole world's going to be experiencing this eclipse, but every different part of the world is going to be experiencing it in a different way. I mean, the United States obviously is going to be experiencing it through the election. Um, and of course all of the events that happen next week within our culture, but every other country, and of course wherever you live, wherever, however this is fitting into your own birth chart. Jonathan just said his natal moon's at 21 Taurus, right? Like that's I mean that's pretty close to being in a conjunction with this eclipse. So yeah, you probably will be feeling this emotionally, right? You're being very sensitive to that energy. If you have a Taurus moon, a Scorpio moon, even Leo and Aquarius moons really going to be in some sort of configuration with this eclipse. Stop popping up on my um so yeah, of course, yes, look at your chart, be aware of what's happening. If you don't know where your moon is, or you don't know what your rising is, or whatever, I'd be happy to help you find that. Just contact me through our Facebook group, or go through resonantessentials.com. If you were in my membership, hello everybody. I'm super excited to see you. And you haven't received a free birth certificate from, or yes, I wish I could. Yeah, I wish I could give out birth certificates, but no. If you haven't received a free natal chart from me, yeah, you can email me, message me, whatever on Facebook in our group, and I will get that to you. So if you don't know all these things, it's no worries. You can actually get free birth charts out all over the internet. But if you want me to send you a PDF of the one that I create, I would be happy to do that for you. Also, if you would like to actually dig deeper into what this means for you as a complete analysis of your own birth chart with this eclipse, I have a few spots coming up next week at Resonant Essentials. I already have a few bookings because people really want to know how this is, affecting them. So if you're one of those people, I'd love to look at your chart. But anyway, I'm not going to do the whole thing. We're not even like halfway through this. So yes, big things happening Tuesday the 8th, the lunar eclipse. It's going to be happening 4:02 a.m. That's Mountain Time on Tuesday the 8th, and it's going to be at 16 degrees of 16 degrees of Taurus, right? So 16 degrees, that's where the moon's going to be at, and the sun's going to be opposite at 16 degrees of Scorpio, along with some other planets, which we'll talk a little bit more in a second. But just as an overall vibe or an overall theme to this eclipse, I mean, I wrote like big wow, upsets, awakenings. Oh, I wrote grand illusions and turning points because the eclipses are always going to be turning points in a year, no matter what. But this final eclipse in Taurus is kind of, a big deal. Also, with Uranus being there, shaking everything up, adding an extra level of not like unpredictability. Like a lot of people say, you can't predict you can't predict elections, you can't really predict everything in astrology, but when Uranus is involved, that kind of, that adds the extra level of unpredictability. So probably upsets, probably things that are going to be like, wow, I did not see that coming. Um, I put grand illusions because what's happening with this eclipse is not only the configuration with Uranus being involved, it's also there's this weird little side quest happening with Jupiter in Pisces, which has gone retrograde back into Pisces, coming into a square with Mars, which is retrograding through Gemini. So that's kind of happening like at the same time as this eclipse, which has nothing to do with the eclipse, but it's like while all of this chaos and like upsets and big shakeups and awakenings or whatever are happening, these pivotal moments that are going on, there's going to be like a weird background of like grand illusions or um like taking action on specific like big dreamy fantasy worlds. And what I'm really thinking about is the Powerball, right? That's already nobody won this week, so the Powerball's gotten even bigger to like 1.9 billion or something. Anyway, like that's kind of the energy of this like, okay, well, meanwhile all of these crazy things are happening with the election process, and who knows what's gonna be shifting on November 8th. Um, but at least there's a $1.9 billion lottery. So that's kind of the energy that's happening in the background. I mean, Mars is doing its own thing. I mean, Mars is the planet of action, and it's really working with that Jupiterian energy of Pisces. And Pisces is about fantasy and imagination and spirituality. So it can also be, yeah, like grand illusions. Like the biggest grand illusion is winning the lottery anyway, right? Like in American culture, we go down there and we buy a dollar ticket. What's the odds of winning? I mean, we're literally buying into this grand illusion. I mean, somebody always wins, but the odds of you personally winning are so low. But that's not what we think about. We just think of this beautiful, what if I won $1 billion type of energy? And that's like what's present at the same time as this eclipse. So it'll be very interesting to see if someone wins next week, because Mars really is like that idea of taking action. Mars also represents the masculine, so maybe a guy will win, who knows. Maybe it just becomes this huge overblown frenzy of lottery that happens next week, because Mars kind of accelerates a lot of that Jupiterian inflation or big expansiveness. I mean, really, we are dealing with inflation. We're dealing everything's going up. The price of food, the price of everything is going up. So that could also be like, this crazy shakeup with the eclipse energy of the economy. Maybe the stock market's affected next week. I mean, there's just so many things that could possibly happen with an eclipse, but especially with like an eclipse of this magnitude where there's just like so much going on. Um, so yeah, volatility in the stock market definitely is going to be, I think, part of the story. Now, it's interesting because not only is Uranus involved in this eclipse, but also Saturn is involved. So there is, I already said, like there's like a last hurrah with the nodes shifting, but really there's a last hurrah with Saturn involved too. The reason they thought this astrologers think this is such a big eclipse is because it's activating the biggest alignment of 2021, which is the Saturn Uranus square, which has just kind of been sitting there, retrograding, going back and forth, not completely getting away from each other. But this is it. Saturn's moving into Pisces next year. So this is the last final phase of big activation of that Saturn Uranus square. So this eclipse is kind of like, sorry, grab some water. This eclipse really feels like someone pushing that button on the Saturn Uranus square. And I don't know, having a lot of those issues that have happened in the past year, 2021, getting like the spotlight turned on them again. So that this is Saturn's last hurrah as well. That's what I'm kind of pointing at, because it's getting to have its final say before things move into Pisces. And it's using this opportunity with the eclipses to really like have a loudspeaker on its voice. So what is Saturn? This is like its last attempt to control, insert traditions, limitations on people, laws. I mean, Jupiter rules laws, but Saturn kind of rules like restrictions, right? So laws can be restrictive. Obviously, there's a lot of restrictions coming up as far as like women's right to choose and what happens to their own bodies. So that could definitely be part of this story, right? Because Venus represents femininity. It is involved in this eclipse as well. So this can be a really personal activation of this eclipse because of all these personal planets being involved as well. So, oh, what was that? I don't know what happened. Anyway, hopefully we're still alive. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna try to just get through this. So Mercury, Venus, the Sun, they're all very close together. We're gonna have a Mercury, I think, Cazimi on the same day as the eclipse. It's just piles on piles on piles of things happening. So who knows what's going to be going on with the election? I mean, things may get muddled. Things may have miscommunication. Maybe we won't know exactly what's happening, because Mercury rules communication. It rules technology. It rules like all of the voting things and the transactions that happen. So yeah, Mercury, that moment of the Cazimi is going to be very strong. So we may kind of be like, have like a lightning rod of people wanting to come out and, express their voices and have their voices heard. But after that, the Sun kind of takes over and Mercury sort of fades into the background. So after that, there could be sort of a weird nebulous period where you don't know what's going to happen. Revelations, like I put that down. So like an aha moment, or like, oh, wow, I can't believe that happened. And of course, Venus involved too. So women or relationships, femininity, cooperation between people, that can get eclipsed, right? Because Venus is so close to the Sun as well. She's getting a little, shined out by the Sun. So blocked or hidden. So I'm hoping that as a woman, not wanting to be blocked or hidden, especially my voice, feels a little unnerving to have all of that going on. However, it's astrology. Nothing's permanent. Everything's a cycle. Everything keeps moving. So this Mars, Jupiter, Neptune that's happening can definitely be big spiritual awakenings. So I'm trying to like think of a positive spin on this. So we don't all go run out there and like, I don't know, try to like buy a million lottery tickets or just start praying to the gods for some sort of sanity in the world. I was actually thinking about Squid Game because I just finished watching, and this is, I know, like last year's news, but I didn't watch the show until this year. So if you guys have watched Squid Game, they have this giant piggy bank full of money that's just hanging over all of the contestants that gets filled up every time someone's eliminated. So they just keep seeing more and more money being put into this. So that's how kind of Meanwhile, everyone's like dying and suffering and like losing these games with their lives. So it's like very stark, right? This really bleak death process and risking your life and survival and all of that happening. But at least you can look up and see this giant piggy bank full of money. That's what it really feels like right now. It really feels like there's so much on the line. But there's a $1.9 billion lottery, jackpot. So I just that just was really eerie to me when I thought about the symbolism of Squid Game, and what the world's really like right now. So the positive side, sorry, I guess that was supposed to be positive and I wasn't. The positive side, I think, of this Mars Neptune activity that's coming in is a really great opportunity to use that to take action on some sort of spiritual path or spiritual awakening. It's an awesome time to take a class at Resonant Essentials, get a psychic reading, have some sort of connection to your spiritual path or spiritual guides, meditation, all of that. I mean, Mars is very action oriented. So there's something you've been waiting to do or you feel like you're ready to finally take that step towards being more spiritual, and I'm like, this is a way to express that. Sorry, this is a way to really express that in a positive way. So I'm not saying like go out there and sorry, join a cult or whatever. Like that's kind of like the possibilities there, but I'm saying that you can actually channel this into something that's positive for your own self-development, your own spiritual growth, your own whatever you want to Neptune or Jupiter in your life. So great time. You should check out the Resonant Essentials website, check out their classes, go on to Meetup. All of that stuff is listed. If you're on the website, if you're part of the newsletter, you received a whole list of November classes. So check out what's coming up in the next week. And I highly recommend taking it. It could be really pivotal. I took a class a few weeks ago and it was like life changing. So anyway, that's my ad for Resonant Essentials. And we are at 21. So I'm going to go through the week. And right off the bat, we have Monday, which is a Venus and Saturn square, Monday the 7th. So that's a fight. It's like you're probably really going to see a lot of women riled up Monday, like prepping, calling, trying to get their friends off their butts to go vote. That's a lot of, especially women, especially with Venus and Scorpio. Like that's about sex. Like who gets to have sex? Do we? Do they? Who gets to say who would we do or when we do or what we do with it with our bodies? That's real Venus and Scorpio type of energy. And it's squaring Saturn. Saturn is the rule maker. Saturn's the grandfather of tradition. That's a fight. Like you don't get to tell me just because it's been this way forever. So it's like that's very much about Monday. Monday is a big confrontational day or an argument happening between the the feminine and the traditional. So Tuesday, of course, we talked about it. That's the big day, the big eclipse. Everything's happening. Full moon. It's also the Kazemi, which happens at 9:42 a.m. So if you're planning on doing something like very special that you want to take an action on, or you want to have some sort of real deep communicative or informational, maybe you want to learn something, read a like mind-blowing book at that time, and maybe you'll have like a big revelation going on. Of course, we also have the opposition to Uranus. So that'll be coming into action at the very same day at 7:40 p.m. Mountain Time. That's when Mercury is making the opposition to Uranus. So yeah, unexpected news probably happening on election day. Wednesday is the sun, after it moves out of that opposition to the nodes, it is coming into opposition to Uranus. So we won't really get that till about like right after midnight. So it might get pretty hairy, late election night. If you're staying up late, if you're watching the results, if you're watching whatever, things may shift like right after midnight. Of course, it'll be later on the East Coast or earlier on the West. The moon moves into Gemini Wednesday morning, and Thursday we have we're having a square with Mercury and Saturn. So all the stuff that Venus is doing, the sun's going to do, and then Mercury is going to do as well. They're just so close together right now that everything is going to be repeated by it. and re-experienced very personally this week. So that's why I'm saying it's not just the eclipse, the day of the eclipse, it's the entire week, because we're getting different conversations happening every single day. So Wednesday um, it's the sun. Thursday it is Mercury again. Friday, let's see, the moon moves into Cancer, and the sun is having, yeah, a square with Saturn. So another discussion about limitations, about people's authenticity being expressed. Next Saturday, the 12th is, oh yeah, so Mercury is coming into trine with Neptune and Pisces. Mercury's just like moving super fast. Um, and then Sunday is going to be a whole nother like story itself. But I will tell you more about that next Sunday. So those are the moons. We have moons in Gemini. We have the moon in, of course, Virgo. The moon in Gemini, the moon in Taurus, and the moon finally moves into Cancer on Friday the 11th. So, um, do I have any more words of wisdom? Anybody have any questions? Oh, I was like, just sort of like acknowledging. I can't see the comments anymore because I like did something on my computer. Um, it's just acknowledging people who've lost people. I know people who've lost pets in the past week. I know people who've lost, friends. My dad's best friend died in this past week, so I know he was affected by that. Um, and of course, there's the two big celebrity deaths that happened this week. Very young people, in their late 20s, early 30s. That's much too young to die. So yeah, the eclipses are no joke. Things happen around them, and sometimes it does mean people leaving and people coming into, births happen around eclipses as well. So it's not just leaving, it's coming into life too. So yes, watch who you're meeting with, watch who you're talking to. They're going to be sort of important in some way, helping or shifting your life in some different direction. So good luck everybody this week. I hope you stay safe, and if you have any questions about your own chart, please contact me. I really love helping people sort of navigate sometimes difficult events or stressful journeys, because astrology is very powerful in helping you find that sort of best path forward. So hope you have a great week, and I'm sorry I can't see comments if anyone was commenting. I will be at Resonant Essentials on Thursday this week, and if you would like to schedule a reading, just go to resonantessentials.com. So happy eclipse, everybody, and please stay safe and good luck. Bye. End. It's not ending. Yes. Okay, you guys are just gonna watch me like fumble around here until I can figure it out.